So let's come to a comfortable seat. Weight on the centres of the sitting bones and the spine stacking up nice and tall. Just let those shoulders wiggle away from the ears. And we just let the attention come to the breathing for a few moments. And we'll start with a little breathing exercise. So just notice the next 4 breaths, following them in and out. And then the following 4 breaths, we're going to breathe in. We're going to hold the breath in for 2 or 3 seconds, and then we're going to breathe out. So 4 of those. And then we'll have 4 breaths of inhaling and exhaling without any holding. So again, just following that breath with your attention. And then we'll have 4 breaths where we pause after the exhales, and really noticing that feeling of being sort of still and empty as you hold with the breath out of the body. And then we'll have 4 rounds of inhaling and exhaling again with no holding of the breath. Just following the breath with your full attention. And now 4 breaths where we pause after the inhale and the exhale as well. So we're breathing in, holding, breathing out and holding. And then returning to inhaling and exhaling when you've done those 4. And if you've not already, just narrow the passageway there a little bit at the throat so you get the whispering Ujjayi breath. So So if you're not quite sure what that is, all it is we're just making the breath a little bit more noisy, just the same way as you would if you were kind of going to go like make it a sigh kind of sound, or polish a mirror, you might go just to make a little tube of air, so point it at the right spot on the mirror. So we're just trying to do that, but with the lips together and on the inhale as well as the exhale, which might be a bit less familiar. And basically we want to keep that going for the whole of the practice. And doing the Ujjayi breath and making it a little bit noisier, and it feels a little bit harder work. That means we're just a little bit more able to stay focused on the breath for the whole of the practice. If you can't do it, no worries, just try and stay focused on the breath as best you can. So let's make our way into a downward facing dog just before we get started on our sun salutations. So planting the hands so the fingers spread wide, middle fingers point forward, and then we'll curl the toes under and send the hips up and back. See if you can draw the shoulders back away from the ears and roll the upper arms in towards one another, as if you were a bird sort of flapping your wings down. And then we're looking for a long straight body, tummy pulled in, and then depending on the hamstrings, either a bend at the knees or with straighter legs and the heels coming down to the mat. And then we'll tiptoe forward to find a standing forward bend. Let's make this a gentle one for the time being. So just dangle forwards, maybe catch hold of the elbows. And then letting go with the hands, we'll just roll ourselves up to a standing position. And we're going to move through 5 Surya Namaskar A and 5B. So remembering to move in time with that slow, steady Ujjayi breath. So with the inhale, let's raise the hands, stretch high, and then exhale, come into a nice forward fold. Again, saying hello to those hamstrings. Inhale, lift and lengthen through the spine. And exhale, hands down, feet back, Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, slide onto the tops of the feet, drawing the chest forwards. See if you can open the shoulders a little bit, drawing the shoulder blades towards one another. And then exhale, you might be able to roll over the toes to come to your downward facing dog. And if you land too long, feel free to make the adjustment, step the feet forwards, whatever you need to do to find the right version of downward facing dog. Coming back to being fully focused on the breath here. Upper arms rolling in. And then with your next inhale, shift the weight forwards and then step as lightly as you can. Bring the feet to the hands and lengthen the spine. And then exhale, we've got another standing forward fold. Inhale, come up. And exhale to standing. Brilliant. Next one. Inhale, raise the hands. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, lift and lengthen. Exhale, Chaturanga Dandasana. Elbows in. Try and hold the weight off the mat if you can. Inhale, upward facing dog. And exhale, downward facing dog. 5 breaths. Try not to let the elbows lock in and bend the wrong way. Just keep a little bit of softness there. You can still do that while spiraling the upper arms in to engage the shoulders. Pull the belly button back towards the spine. And then we'll inhale, feet to hands, lengthen out that spine. Exhale, take a forward fold, and it's like you're walking your rib cage a bit further down the legs. And then inhale, come up, stretch high. Exhale to standing. Good, third one, inhale, raise the hands. Exhale, forward fold. And really try and control all aspects of the movements. Inhale, draw that spine out. And then exhale to your Chaturanga Dandasana, elbows in. Inhale, upward facing dog, drawing that chest forwards. Shoulder blades come in towards one another and look up. And then exhale to your downward facing dog. And then with the option of raising the right leg. And then inhale, feet to hands, halfway up, long back. Really draw it out, and then exhale, fold as deeply as you can. Inhale, come up. And exhale to standing. Brilliant. Next one, inhale, raise the hands. Maybe even lifting the chest for a bit of a back bend. And exhale, fold forwards. Inhale, lift and lengthen. Exhale, Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, upward facing dog. And exhale, downward facing dog. Raising the other leg. And then with the next inhale, feet to hands, halfway up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, come up. And exhale to standing. Good, last one of these. Inhale, raise the hands. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, lift and lengthen. Exhale, Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, upward facing dog. Peeling those shoulders open and back. And exhale, downward facing dog. 5 breaths. Inhale, feet to hands, really lengthen. Exhale, fold. Inhale, come up. And exhale to standing. Well done. So let's come along to Surya Namaskar B. So bending the knees. Let's inhale, come to a chair pose. And then exhale, find our forward fold. Thumbs beside the little toes if you can. Inhale, lift and lengthen. And exhale, Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, up facing dog. Peeling those shoulders back. Exhale, downward facing dog. And then shift the weight forwards again so you can step lightly. Bring the right foot forward, place the left heel down. Keep that bend in the front knee as you reach up for Warrior A. And then exhale, Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. And inhale, left foot forward, right foot flat, Warrior. Exhale, Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. 5 breaths here. Pulling the tummy in, lengthening the spine. Rolling the upper arms in towards one another to activate up into the shoulders. And then with the next inhale, feet to hands, halfway up, long back. Exhale, fold. Bend the knees. Inhale, lift up the hands. And exhale, straighten. Good, next one. Inhale, chair pose. Spread the fingers, palms face one another. Exhale, forward fold. Thumbs beside the little toes if you can. Inhale, lift and lengthen. Coming onto the fingertips if the hands have been flat on the floor. And then exhale, Chaturanga Dandasana. Elbows in, chest forwards to work a little harder. Inhale, upward facing dog. Shoulders peel back. And exhale, downward facing dog. Then inhale, stepping silently on the mat. Right foot forward, left heel down. Warrior. And then exhale to Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, left foot forward, right foot flat. Warrior. Exhale, Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, upward facing dog. And exhale, downward facing dog. 5 breaths. Inhale, feet to hands, halfway up, long back. Exhale, fold. Bend the knees. Inhale, lift up the hands. And exhale, straighten. Good. Third one. Inhale, chair pose. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, lift and lengthen. Exhale, Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, right foot forward, left foot flat. Warrior, steering that left hip forwards if you can. And then exhale, Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. And inhale, left foot forward, right foot flat. Steering this right hip forwards. Exhale, Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, upward facing dog. And exhale, downward facing dog. And then we can raise this right leg, bend the knee, drop the foot over behind us, turn into a little bit of a twist. And then inhale, feet to hands, halfway up, long back. Exhale, fold. Bend the knees. Inhale, lift up the hands. And exhale, straighten. Next one. Inhale, chair pose. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, lift and lengthen. Exhale, Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, right foot forward, left foot flat. Warrior. Exhale, Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, left foot forward, right foot flat. Warrior. Exhale, Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, upward facing dog. And exhale, downward facing dog. 5 breaths. Raising the left leg, bend the knee, drop the foot over. Left hip turns up. Right hip tucks under. And then inhale, feet to hands, halfway up, long back. Exhale, forward fold. Bend the knees. Inhale, lift the hands. Exhale, straighten. And then we just got one more. Inhaling into chair pose. Exhale, make that nice forward fold. Inhale, unfurl the spine. And then exhale to Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, right foot forward, left foot flat, warrior. Exhale, Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, left foot forward, right foot flat, warrior. Exhale, Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, upward facing dog. And exhale, downward facing dog. 5 breaths. Then inhale, feet to hands, halfway up, long back. Exhale, fold, bend the knees. Inhale, lift up the hands, and exhale, straighten. Good job. So let's just come back into a standing forward bend, and you can choose depending where you're at. So you might come back to the dangling, holding onto the elbows, or you might hold onto the ankles or the big toes, or you might bring the hands around behind the leg, cup the heel, and then stand on that hand. So both hands underneath the heels. So wherever you are, try not to round the back. We're lengthening out, drawing the rib cage away from the hips. Good, and then we'll just exhale and release the hands. And then we'll inhale and roll ourselves up to a standing position. Good job. We'll step out wide, just take a wide leg standing forward bend. We're just going to do 2 of these. So let's start with the hands on the hips. We'll inhale, lift the chest. Exhale, turn the pelvis over. So we feel the hip bones folding down towards the thighs. Hold the spine out straight, pull the tummy in. 5 breaths. Don't shift the weight back onto the heels, but use the whole length of the foot to take your weight. Good. With your next inhale, just slowly draw yourself up, keeping that waist nice and long. We'll take a stretch up with the hands. And then as you exhale, bring those hands down behind you, interlace the fingers, and really draw those shoulder blades right in towards one another. So again, we're peeling the shoulders back. Now when your next inhale comes, lift the chest a little bit. Those hands are going to drop a bit further behind you. And then exhale, come forwards. Pelvis turns over just like it did in the last one. And maybe the shoulders twizzle in their sockets a little. Check the weight distribution through the feet as well. And then keeping those hands holding where they are, we'll inhale, draw ourselves up. Stretch the hands up high. And then we're going to come into our goddess pose. So let's just adjust the feet so the toes point out. We're going to have goddess arms as well. So elbows bent up at the height of the shoulders and the wrists flexed as if we're carrying 2 very heavy plates of fruit. And then keeping the pelvis and the body as upright as we can. We're bending the knees and sitting low. Keep pushing up with the hands so you're flexing those muscles in the arms and the chest. Brilliant, and then we'll release. Good stuff. Let's come into our triangle pose. We'll turn the right foot out along the midline and turn the left foot in. Hips turn around towards the long edge of the mat, and then we're just going to lean so that the right hand slides down the leg and the left hand reaches up. Brilliant. So with the next inhale, let's just carefully float up and simply swap the feet around. So the left foot points out along the midline of the mat and the right foot turns in a little bit and the hips point towards the longer edge of the mat. Lean left. And when you find that stretch along the right side of the body, reach the right hand up. And then with your next inhale, just draw yourself up and we'll hop back to the front of the mat. And then we'll try a revolving triangle. Now you might want to use a block for this. If so, just put it down on the front left side of the mat. We're going to step the right foot forwards and the left foot back. But the left foot is going to be turned out a little bit. Hips steer forwards. So you're probably going to need to bring that left hip forwards. And then with a nice long waist, we're going to reach the left hand high. And then turning this pelvis over, as we have done in all of our forward bends so far. Bring that left hand down either to the floor or to a block, or failing that, onto the shin itself. Draw the spine out long and then open to the side. So reaching the right hand high. Keep tucking this right hip back, which will mean the left hip is coming forwards. And then we'll slowly inhale and come up and just swap those feet over. So the left foot steps forward, the right foot steps back. If you're using a block, just bring it across to the front right corner of your mat. Steering the right hip forward this time so they're both level. Inhale, reach that right hand high, lengthen through the tummy, and then exhale, tip that pelvis forwards and find a place for that right hand to land. Draw the body out along the midline and then rotate the rib cage. Check the left hip is tucking back, right hip forwards, and reach the left hand high. Brilliant. And then we'll just gently release and come up to a standing position and hop back to the front of the mat and just give the legs a little wiggle. We'll come to our external rotation standing balance. So that might be tree pose with the foot against the calf or the thigh muscle, or you might be going for this second option, which has the ankle in front of the knee. And this knee falling down as we take a little one-legged squat. Or you might go for the half lotus by bringing the heel up towards the opposite hip and then perhaps folding forwards. So whichever one you fancy, all doing pretty much the same thing. Weight on one leg and an external rotation at the other hip. So whenever you're ready, just find your way into the pose on the other side. And if the hips feel quite different to one another today, don't be shy to do a different version of the pose on the other side. So I might go for the single leg squat on this side, my right hip not being quite so open as my left, and both of them feeling tight today because I went running yesterday. Brilliant, and then we'll just carefully make our way out. And then we'll have a go at sitting all the way down into a squat. So let's just have those toes turned out. Now, if you've been doing this for ages, you'll know exactly how far apart your feet need to be and how far out your toes need to be turned. But if you're not sure, go for a wide stance with the toes turned out quite far. And then we're just going to bring the hands to your heart center. And we're going to try and stay really upright through the body as we come all the way down. And the heels want to stay on the floor as we come down into this squat. So just give it a try. When you're down, you might want to adjust the feet. You might feel that you can bring them in a little bit and point the toes forward, or you might feel like you've come down with those feet too close together and you might want to have them wider and the toes pointing out. Brilliant, and then we can point those hands forwards, sit down on the sitting bones, and we'll just come into Cobblers Pose. That's an external rotation of both hips at the same time. So soles of the feet come together. You can have these feet close to the body or further away, whatever means that you feel like you can sit up tall or even come forwards on the sitting bones. So if you feel like you roll back, that's not the direction that we want the pelvis to be working in. So you could have the feet come forwards a little bit, and that should help you to shift your weight a little bit. So just see what needs to happen there. If you want to feel a bit more of a stretch around the hips, you can hold onto the feet and poke your elbows into the calves. That's probably going to ask a little bit of a forward lean of you. So draw this back out nice and straight. Don't kind of get into this business with everything curled up. Draw the chest forwards, lengthen the spine, pull the tummy in. Brilliant, and release. So we're going to come into a seated forward bend, but we're going to do it a slightly different way. And this way of doing the seated forward bend can be quite damaging to our ego. Just a little warning. So when we do a forward bend of any description, what we're really after, if it's a kind of feet together kind of forward bend, what we're really after is for the rib cage to be resting on the thighs. And what we can get into a habit of doing is rounding the back and tucking the rib cage away from the thighs, which isn't really what we want because that sends the pelvis in the wrong direction. So let's approach our seated forward bend a little bit differently today. So just get into the middle of your mat and bend the knees up. And just come so that your rib cage is touching your thighs. Okay, so that might need the thighs to be right up. You might need to even hug yourself to hold this shape. And then what we're going to try and do is walk those feet forwards and see honestly how far into your seated forward bend can you come whilst keeping the rib cage touching the thighs. So you could walk the sitting bones back or slide the heels forwards, all the same thing. So the moment you feel your rib cage start to peel away from your thighs, just stop and back up a little bit. If you get all the way down, then that is fine. But that is really what we're working for. So for the pelvis to be sort of angled forwards, the hip bones really tucking down against the thighs and the rib cage against the fronts of the thighs. And so with some discipline, it would be really good if you could practice your seated forward bends that way. There is an equivalent for your standing forward bend, so you can approach the standing forward bend sort of from the bottom up. So you can come down into this kind of garland pose, bend the knees, lay the rib cage against those thighs, and then just see if you can take the bend a little bit out of the legs whilst keeping the rib cage glued onto the front of the thighs. And you might find at some point to straighten the legs, you start to move into that position. And look how much space there is now between my rib cage and my thighs when I'm rounding my back. So this is really a great thing to explore, because what we're really looking for is this kind of shape. Okay, so if you didn't come to standing to do that with me, just make your way to a downward facing dog from seated, or if you did come standing, just place the hands and step the feet back, because we need to do our plank challenge. So we're on 9 breaths now. If you can count 3 seconds per inhale and 3 seconds per exhale, we'll do a side plank, a middle plank, and then a side plank on the other side. So let's go. And when you're done, making your way into child's pose, sitting back towards the heels. And then we'll just make our way up to a tabletop pose. And then we're just going to step this right foot so that it's nice and flat on the floor. Knee dropping over, hips dropping low. And we're just sending that left leg back. And if you can push this left hip sort of out and forwards and down, and see if you can find a stretch around that left hip, and maybe in the left side of the abdomen. And we can move into a nice quad stretch from here by bending that back knee and taking hold of the foot and just drawing it in a little bit towards the back of the thigh or towards the bottom. Brilliant. And then we just gently release, and I'll make our way in on the other side. So maybe just a little wiggle while we're in tabletop pose, and then stepping the left foot forwards, sliding the right knee back and dropping as low as you can through the hip. And then we'll bend that back leg and just reach and find that foot with the hand. Brilliant. And then we'll just gently release. We'll send both feet back and we'll come into a Sphinx pose, so gentle back bend. So placing the elbows on the floor, pointing the toes back behind you. Really see if you can draw yourself into this back bend by contracting the muscles on the back so you feel like you're light on the elbows. In fact, you could take those hands away from the floor. So really think about doing this posture from the spine, from the center of the body, rather than from the limbs. And that's actually true for an awful lot of postures. We want to think about them emanating from the center of the body and then kind of flowing outwards from there. So resist pushing yourself into this back bend by forcing yourself in using the arms, but draw yourself in using the strength that you have in your back. Keep the shoulders low. Brilliant. And then from here, we'll just gently release and we'll come back to a child's pose, just for a little counter pose. So allowing the back to gently round the other way. And then we'll just draw ourselves up past the feet around. We're just going to come into a passive twist, an inversion, and then Shavasana. So we're just coming down onto our back with the knees bent up, and then we're going to let them fall over to one side, resting the hand on top and turning your head away to the other side. So just turning into a little twist. Brilliant. And then when you're ready, just gently bringing those knees over to the other side, placing the hand on top and turning away into your twist. Good, and then we'll come back to the middle, and from here, just whichever inversion is appropriate for your body and also for your environment. So if you have a flat wall for a handstand, go right ahead. If you just feel like something gentle, float the feet into the air and snuggle the whole spine along the ground. perhaps with the arms overhead, or you might want to roll up into a shoulder stand, or you might want to take a headstand. So whichever you choose, we're just going to spend 10 breaths in this inversion. And then from here we can just gently make our way out and into Shavasana. And that might be with the feet flat on the floor, knees resting in towards one another, and the lower back tucked into the mats. Or you might go for an external rotation of the hips with the soles of the feet together if that feels nice, or otherwise just lying with the arms and legs straight out on the mat. Letting the breath soften and letting the whole body just rest onto the mat.